It's Sunday, September 7th, and it's happening. Snow's starting to show up on the long-term European weeklies across northern Russia. That matters because as we head toward winter, it's one of the factors that we look at to impact the cold air that builds across this region and then moves into North America. Let's see how all this plays out. I think it's interesting because with more precipitation, at least normal to above normal expected on the European weeklies, more snow, more cold that builds as our days get super short. In fact, we start to go to darkness here and that cold just continues to billow. And if you can get the right weather pattern, you move that cold air across into North America. It's chilly in some areas this morning. Enjoy it while it lasts. Okay, we're not going to see this for very long. This is a brief preview of fall for some of you. 40s as far south as Nebraska, even parts of northern Kansas, down into parts of Missouri. 30s below freezing in some areas across Minnesota this morning. There was some frost here. Temperatures early this morning were in the 40s into parts of the Northeast, but the warm air hugging the coast. Once you get to central PA, down into the lower Hudson Valley, temperatures near 60 this morning, so we didn't get that cool. Temperatures will be on the way down across this area as this cooler air moves in. It's not going to be shocking by any stretch. Will your AC get a rest? Maybe a bit of a relief, but that September sun can still get pretty toasty. And then across the south, it's still warm. As we move through today, temperatures aren't going to be cooling down much. Let's look at the upper level pattern as we head through the next week or so. That cool air is going to lift out, and it's really going to be concentrated around the Arctic. I'm just going to let this animate through because I was sitting here looking at this morning. Just you can kind of gather what's happening. Look how the flow is really blocking here across the United States and Canada. You get some ridging that builds just like this, and your cold air is concentrated around the pole. And while this cool air retreats across North America, what we're not seeing is a strong polar vortex develop. If anything, you can see how across Europe you're pushing that air north across the pole and you're dropping that cold air down into parts of northern Russia, which again I think is why the European weeklies are picking up on more snow here as we head into October. Let's look at temperature departures. Yeah, it's cooler than average right now. With the greens, these numbers are anywhere between 5 to 15 degrees below average. The green would be around 10 degrees below average. I want to show you this because as we head through the week, by Monday into Tuesday, we're still at least below average here from the Northeast down into parts of the Mid-South and into parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, back into Indiana, Illinois, Missouri. But we're starting to warm up across the northern plains. And across the southern plains, we'll have more clouds here, so your temperatures will be held down a little bit. But the overall trend will be for warmer temperatures, especially the further west you go, at least across the plains. If you go really far to the west, temperatures cooling off as an upper low starts to move into parts of California and Oregon. It starts to impact our weather here. But look how warm it starts to get across the plains up into parts of Canada. So this is looking really warm here with temperatures going 5, 10, in some cases, especially the further north you go, close to 15 to 20 degrees above average up here into parts of Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Temperatures right along the East Coast. I think this will be something that we'll be watching all week. May not get much above average. In fact, a couple of cool shots of air, cool air, try to keep things at least near normal, not as hot as what we're going to see across the central U.S. Look at your temperatures. Today, another comfortable day. We'll be in the 70s in many areas, 60s further to the north. Tonight, another cool night, but not nearly as cold across the upper Midwest and the northern plains. And highs as we head into Monday, back up into the 80s across South Dakota, western parts of Kansas into Nebraska, even into Missouri. We're getting close to 80 again. Another night of warmer temperatures, at least warmer than the night before. So as we head into Tuesday, highs a few degrees warmer. 3-4 degrees or so across many parts of this area. We're back up into the 80s again across Missouri, down into Arkansas, and then the 90s start to return as we head through Wednesday into Thursday, especially by Thursday. Look how widespread these 90s get into the afternoon. So from Little Rock back to Oklahoma City, we start to see much warmer weather, and even into parts of the upper Midwest, we're back up into the 80s. The 70s are going away pretty quickly here. And by next weekend, we could be looking at some pretty decent temperatures, warming up also into parts of Indiana, Illinois, into West Tennessee too. Further to the east, temperatures as we move through this Sunday, cooling down tonight. All right, so that cooler air finally makes a push to the coast. By the time you get into Monday morning, New York City back into the mid-50s anyway. And once you get inland, we're likely going to be in the 40s. So Harrisburg, Allentown, Scranton, north up to Albany, Rochester, Syracuse in the 40s, even into parts of Maine. Certainly not unprecedented for this time of year, and high temperatures as we move into Monday. Comfortable. It's going to be dry, though. We could use some rain, especially the further north you go into Maine. No pun intended on the rhyme there, but it's quite dry. And then as we head into Tuesday, here's a look at your temperatures. Still comfortable from the Ohio Valley, even into the deep south. We're talking about temperatures in the 80s. It could be much hotter than this. Let's go into Wednesday morning, a little bit milder here too with each passing day, especially the further west you go here into parts of Mississippi, Alabama, West Tennessee, Western Kentucky. We're back up into the mid 80s. And then by Thursday, that heat starts to build toward the Great Lakes with temperatures on the way up as that warm air starts to surge north, as our high pressure pushes off to the east. Some cool air, though, does try to work its way down into the northeast as we head into Friday. Across the west, temperatures pretty hot across the far southwest, although the Pacific Northwest still cooler than what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. Highs heading into Monday, back into the 80s, though, into the valleys from Boise up into Spokane. And then as we head into Tuesday, temperatures starting to cool down significantly, especially across the Pacific Northwest into the Central Valley of California, back into the 70s, where we've also been pretty hot lately. Some strong storms possible on this Sunday from parts of Nebraska, at least the southwest corner, into eastern Colorado, west Kansas, the panhandle of Oklahoma, and to north Texas. Even parts of New Mexico could see a few strong storms this afternoon. And tomorrow, that threat pretty much in the same area. It shifts slightly to the south and east. Let's take a quick look at the future radar for timing precipitation out on this Sunday. Some of these storms could be pretty strong again across Colorado. Some decent flow in the upper level will be driving these storms, so some wind shear here that could let those storms really pulse up into the afternoon and evening. Those calm down tonight, and then tomorrow we kind of shift our focus a little bit further to the south and east. HRRR trying to develop this complex of storms across Nebraska and drop it south into Oklahoma, and again, these could be on the strong side as we head into Monday. A wider look at the entire country. Let's walk you through the next couple of days precipitation-wise. The first thing I notice in these height lines is look at this northwest flow. You're seeing your weather pattern set up like this as you have a low setting around the Hudson Bay into Canada, driving everything in like this, northwest to southeast. Across the west, we have an upper low off the coast that's bringing some moisture in. At the surface, high pressure settling in across the Ohio Valley, moisture returning around that high, pulling that moisture up into parts of Texas, into Oklahoma and Kansas, so rain chances will stick around here. We're dry, though, from the Great Lakes into the northeast as this massive high continues to dominate the weather pattern here. Onshore flow into parts of Florida, Georgia, into the southeast could keep a few clouds and showers around this part of the country, and some cooler air pushing down into the Piedmont of North Carolina, South Carolina, the upstate, as this high wedges that cooler air down the east face of the mountains. On the backside, here comes your return flow, moisture increasing across the plains, so rain chances going up as we head now into Tuesday, especially Tuesday evening and then into Wednesday. This is going to be the area where we see the shower activity just because of all that moisture moving north into this region, and with the southerly flow, temperatures start to really go up. As we head now into Thursday, your upper level heights start to build here. You start to see more of a ridge pattern developing as we get into the late part of the week. So now we're looking at temperatures cooler in the northeast, but starting to really warm up across the central part of the country. Showers will stick around, especially from, say, Kansas northeast into the Great Lakes. It's not going to be a complete washout. And then I think you watch what's happening. Listen, this is the GFS operational run. We're looking at 1 week from today. The overnight run, well, this is actually the early Sunday morning run, tried to bring some kind of tropical storm, hurricane into parts of North Carolina. Listen, this is why I don't like to look at each individual run. The run from last night took it out to sea. But one thing I think you do look at is the ensemble guidance. This is the GFS plots, a couple of models trying to show something developing over the next week or so, also into the Gulf. Hurricane season is underway, and we're entering kind of a favorable period here as we move through September. So you'll want to keep an eye on things as we move through the end of the month, maybe even into the first part of October as well. So there's a quick update. Again, every week I do a winter weather outlook. If you missed this week's, it's right here. You can check it out. We talk about some of the global connections we're seeing as we head into winter and how that may impact you. If you've not seen it, I'll see you over there.